Alright, now I'm ready to start planting my bales. They've been conditioned, they're doing great, they're starting to grow some mushrooms. All I'm going to really need to do now is to either plant my seeds or my started plants, whichever you prefer to use. Both will work fine in these. Tomatoes do really great in these. It's not really the time of year for tomatoes here, and I may try a few just because I'm in the greenhouse, but probably not something I want to fight with right now. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing is going to be starting from seed. So to start with seed, we're just going to put a thin layer of potting soil on the top. That's really just to keep the seeds from falling down inside, and you might hear it's raining in the greenhouse because it's so much warmer in here than it is out there. When the wind blows, it knocks condensation off the top. So I get a constant rain in here. The plants love it. But yeah, you can just go ahead and put your topsoil just a little bit, just to keep the seed from falling too deep into the hay that it won't be able to come out. So just to plant your seeds on top. Now if you're starting with cups, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is just take your little plant root started out, open the grass up and the straw up, and just put your plant in, and it's fine. You don't have to put soil. But I'm going to start most of mine from seeds, so we're going to go ahead and put some soil now. Alright, you notice that I removed all of my drip hoses. I had it run about 3 hoses. I had it run back and forth to have the hose run on it 3 times because I want it to soak it really good during the conditioning stage, but I don't want it to stay that wet anymore. So from now on, I took it off. I'm going to put my soil, I'm going to start my seeds, and then I'm going to run 1 drip hose down the very center, and that'll be it. And I'll turn that on every once in a while when it needs water. But remember that these hay bales, they hold a lot of water. Up to 100 pounds of water per bale. You don't have to water them that often, but you do need to make sure that your stuff doesn't dry out. And it's also important to note that you need to start this where you're going to leave it, because you're not going to really be able to move them once they start conditioning. So my topsoil got kind of wet, but that's not a big deal. That actually works out well. I'm not going to have to water right away. So I just want to put a little bit on top. I don't need a thick layer. Down just enough to keep my seeds from going all the way through when I plant. I don't need the soil for actually planting, so you don't have to buy a whole lot of it, just to give your seeds something to sit in. Now if you were gonna compost, if this was outside, I would be putting goat and sheep compost manure and stuff on it. That would work really well for your topsoil with some soil mixed in. I'm not going to do that in here because I'm in the greenhouse in such an enclosed, confined area. That would really stink. So I want to be able to breathe when I come in here, so I'm just going to use regular topsoil. But for outside, when these are done outside, definitely you can put some natural compost there. Alright, now it took 2 bags to cover my 20 bales of hay, which cost about $10, and then the bales cost about $20. So for $30–35, say, I've got a whole lot of raised beds. Very easy, very inexpensive way to grow. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with my seeds. I've got all kinds of seeds in here, and we're just going to kind of experiment and see what does well. Mostly I'm going to do some winter-fall crops, but I'm going to do some summer and spring crops in here too, just to see. We'll kind of get a gauge for how well they do through the very cold months and see what happens. Alright, because we're growing in these bales and we're not restricted to straight rows that we have to get between, all the rules of square foot gardening apply here. So you can get a bigger yield from a smaller space. If you were going to, for example, plant this in your yard, you can make it look really pretty and decorative by simply planting some hanging plants on the front that they would hang over the front, some medium plants in the middle, and some climbing plants or taller plants in the back. And you can put this right in your front yard and it would be very pretty. What I'm going to do right here is I'm going to experiment with some summer plants, but I don't know how well they'll do, and I don't want to waste an entire bale. So right on the back side, I'm going to plant some cucumbers, and then on the other side some tomatoes that they can climb and hold on to this. if you're going to plant anything that's really tall or that climbs, they need to be staked or secured, or they have to have something to hang on to because their root system in the hay is very loose. There's not a lot of support there. So for my taller plants, I'm going to put on the back side here that they can latch onto this. And then in the front, I'll put some smaller plants, some radishes or something to that effect. And on some I'll put bush beans, I'll put whatever I have, collards, carrots. The good thing about this is that root plants do really, really well. You can even grow potatoes in this. So, but of course that's going to completely destroy the bale. But you can grow just about anything in here, and I'm going to give it a go and we'll see what comes up. I don't know if you can tell, but Hannah decided that it was really fun to run on top of them. So there's little paw prints all over. I'm going to open up some of my seeds because I'm probably not going to use all of them, though I may, I don't know yet. Remembering that I'm going to try to squeeze 2 rows in here, but it doesn't really matter if they don't come up symmetrical and they just come up all over. That'll work just as well. Because I don't have to try to get between rows with a tiller or a hoe. You know, it makes it very, very simple. Hardly any grass or weeds will come up in here. There won't be a whole lot of maintenance to this after this point. The few things that do come up, you just come in and pluck. And you can do rows of these where you can just walk around them, or, you know, if you're disabled or if you have back trouble or anything like that, you can just get you a little rolling stool, sit down, roll along and harvest or weed or whatever you have to do. But like I said, there's not a lot of weeding that goes on with this. It's very, very low maintenance. So there you go. We'll come back in a couple of weeks and show you some progress. Alright, they're planted. We're gonna see how they do. One of the great things about this, another one of the great things about it, is that once you water it, the temperature will begin to rise a little bit in the bales, and that will actually spur some very quick germination because they're going to stay pretty warm in their roots, which is a good thing. But since my soil was wet, my topsoil, my potting soil got kind of wet, but that really worked out great for me because it helped it to stick to the top without falling in, and then it helped my seeds to stay on the top as well without running through. It just made it really easy to plant. So the wet soil really turned out to my advantage. So I'm not going to water it today. I'm going to give it a day or so to kind of just settle in and take root a little bit, and then probably put my drip hose back on it tomorrow and go ahead and start to water. Alright, it's been 2 days since we put the seeds in. It's late evening, so it's a little dark in here, but they're starting to break surface already, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how quickly these things begin to come up in these hay bales. I said it's only been 2 days, and carrots and radishes are starting to come up. Of course, radishes come up quickly to begin with anyway, but these are carrots. They're starting to break the surface already and come up. So probably within the next 3 or 4 days they'll be pretty big, and I'll show you again to where you'll be able to see them a little bit better. Alright, it's been a few weeks. We've had some really cold temperatures, but the temperature in here is holding up just fine. Mostly, I'm not even putting any heat in here. It's mostly just because of the hay bales. When the day is warm at high noon, I might water it a little bit. Of course, the hay bales hold water. It warms up, and throughout the night it kind of just keeps the temperature well in here. I know it hasn't dropped below low 60s, high 50s because the moringa are still doing well and they haven't even lost their leaves. And their leaves fall in the low 60s. And they'll die if it goes below 40, and they're still doing great. So it's been pretty good in here, even though it's been in the 30s and 20s outside. So it's doing well, and as you can see, the plants are growing in the hay bales, as you can kind of tell. I went ahead, now that the plants are a little bit older, and added my my soak hose so that they can get a lot of water. Now, if it's one thing you'll notice is because of the way that I watered initially, some of the plants kind of pooled and puddled into spots. Good thing about this is that because there's no real soil, the roots are very loose, so it's really, really, really easy to get these out without damaging the root and just transplant them. So if I have a bale that's not doing so well, or one like this one where there's like a cluster here and not so much, say, in one particular spot, rather than just plucking them and thinning them to throw them away, I can actually transplant them extremely easily. And I've done this on a couple of bales that I had this issue with and spread the plants out. So it's working really, really well for that. And they're growing, they're coming up fast, good and thick. Different kinds of plants on each bale. And doing really well. I'm gonna have to thin this one out. I do have one bale that is doesn't have quite as much on it. I'm gonna probably thin this and put some of these on that other bale. But it's doing really well right now. Oh, Cookie. She can't get on the camera because I got her locked out, so she's gonna find a way to do it. She's gonna make it rain on us by running on the roof. Also, this is a good root starter substance. I have a tomato plant that I broke a sucker off of one of Kai's plants outside and just kind of stuck it down into the hay to see how it would work, and it took really well. I'll show you right here. This one right here would be one that I planted from seed, and this one right here, you can see much bigger, is one that I just stuck in the dirt from a tomato sucker that I broke off of a live plant before the freezes hit. And I didn't really think that it would even survive, but I just did it for the sake of checking, and it's growing really fast and doing really, really well. So you can plant suckers directly into this really easy without really doing anything to it, and it'll grow. I'm going to show you right here. As you can see, it's still a baby, but these little radishes are coming along just fine. All the plants are doing really, really well. And I haven't done anything to this. Of course, I have not weeded at all. I haven't had to full weed it. The only thing I do, since I have this this soak hose on it, is once a day I just come and turn the soak hose on from outside and let it go for a little bit, shut it off, and everything takes care of itself.